Welcome in, Bobby Valentine. Bobby, welcome. How are you?
Mike, I'm basically the same as everyone else. I'm cooped up, and I'm doing fine under the circumstances. Thank you.
I saw you singing. Someone on television showed a video of you singing "Meet the Mets." I think it was on the 11 o'clock news on the other night.
Oh gosh, they don't have anything to do with the news anymore, do they, Mike?
No, well, listen. They need sports videos right now, Bob. They need sports news. It's hard. There's not much going on, but it has been. How are things? You're involved in a lot of different things. You're involved with the college. You're involved. You got a restaurant. How are things going as far as your business ventures?
Well, status quo. The restaurants are closed. The sports academy is closed. The university, with our 90-something coaches and 800-plus athletes at Sacred Heart University, we're doing a great job of keeping everyone together. It's very difficult. Coaches are, dealing with the same thing the student-athletes dealing with, the same thing you and I are dealing with, that idea of uncertainty and just how to move forward in these uncertain times.
Bobby, will they give the kids on that level another year as eligibility? Is that the plan?
Yeah, Mike, the NC2A just 2 days ago came out with a format that will allow seniors who were in their final year of competition in the spring sports, they're allowing them to come back. The rosters will be expanded. They don't have to get the same scholarship. They could get a little less if that still gets them back in the saddle. And the last thing anyone wants to do is take that senior year away from someone who might not ever play the sport again. Might just leave that idea of field hockey or baseball or whatever sport we're dealing with. And have it only as a memory. So we want it to be a good memory.
Bobby, you have a successful restaurant, very successful restaurant. And I don't mean this to pry, but I mean, how long can you handle helping out I don't know how many employees you have, but I mean, you got a bunch of them, I'm sure. And I know a bunch of other guys who have restaurants and bars, and these businesses have been crushed. I mean, absolutely crushed. And you worry about the people who work there and make tips and have to live like that. I mean, it's a lot of people you probably have to worry about right now. I know a lot of guys who are in the same boat.
Yeah, you're exactly right. That's what we're doing. And at the Sports Academy, a lot of the guys and gals who are there make their living by giving lessons.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, the kids train there, so they're
hands on, and when you close the doors, there's nowhere to give that lesson. It's a strenuous situation. I'm lucky enough to have some wherewithal, and the businesses were successful enough to, bridge some of these situations for the employees.
Good.
But it's tenuous. It's very, very difficult.
There it is. Let me ask you this from a baseball standpoint. Bobby, as you know, folks, has obviously had a long, successful career as a manager and before that as a player. What would you, if you were getting ready to manage this year and this happens, what would be the thing that you would worry most about your team?
Wow. Well, the idea of establishing trust, which it's paramount. If you're going to be in any winning situation, you have to have trust, and then you have to have teamwork. And in this situation, with everyone being separated, it's really hard to start building that team philosophy. And when you aren't seeing guys on a daily basis and you're separating from them, it's very hard to build the trust. And those are things that in a baseball season as most seasons go, are compounded as the season goes on. Now you're talking about a possible shortened season. You're talking about people from all over the place coming together and hope that they're in shape by the time they're playing. I just think to communicate with the people, to establish the trust, keep the trust, I think is paramount. To try to get the guys talking to each other a little, seeing each other, sharing some commonality, I think is important. But it's difficult times.
Would you have your, even though you wouldn't be with them, would you have your pitches thrown a little bit, or you would tell them to shut it down?
No, all skilled positions would be given a protocol.
Okay.
Even
pitchers.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think every pitcher has a protocol right
Gotcha.
now.
Okay.
It's not necessarily off the mound,
right?
But there's some long tossing, there's some weight work, there's some cardio work that's paramount to if you're going to hit the ground running, and it seems like that's what they have to do.
And how many days
level.
do you think they need, Bobby? For each week they've been out, how many days do you think you need to get a team back ready?
Well, again, the pitchers are the big point, and
right.
I think what they'll do is extend the rosters even more. I used to say that the 40-man roster should be at the start of the season so that you could use more players.
It makes plenty of
how
sense.
They could perform. So maybe they're going to expand rosters at the beginning so that people pitch less and kind of get in shape as the season progresses. But before you know it, this season's going to be gone, and to have a legitimate champion is getting tougher by the day.
Yeah, I could see them. We're talking about Bobby Valentine. I could see them going through a split season. Maybe like the two halves. Something like that. Since they might only have, say, even if they play doubleheaders on Sundays, which would be good for the fans. Maybe they play 120 games, something like that. I mean, if you're the NBA or NHL, you're probably just going to come back with your playoffs whenever it happens, if that can even be done. So I know football come out of this ahead of everybody else because of the way the season's broke, but I could figure baseball maybe could squeeze, let's say if it's some reasonable amount of time, July, June 15th, whatever it could be, maybe you could get 100 games in, 120 games in.
Yeah, man, 120 would be okay. Once you start getting less than 100 and playing a half a season, if you will, then there's going to be some questions of the legitimacy of the season. But, I'd like to see a game a week. I don't care. I'm as a baseball fan, I'd just like to see the game continue somehow.
So what you would like to see them even put a game out there now, you mean?
No, I don't think they can do it now.
Oh, okay.
No, I think that would be irresponsible. But I'd like to see it sooner rather than later. Once, one of those other hats I wore was the director of public health and safety in Stanford here, and I'm communicating with those people often. And, it's an ugly situation. So there's no reason to do anything before we should or could, but we have to be prepared once the light turns green to go.
Do you find, in wearing that hat, do you find that people are adhering to the idea of staying home and staying in their neighborhoods? Do you sense that do you see that that's working?
Yeah, I think it's finally getting to the masses that it's necessary. Again, the uncertainty of how long is what's driving everyone crazy, and what will probably have this train go off the track if we don't figure out some kind of end game here. And it's just a very, very difficult situation.
Unlike anything we've ever seen before. I mean, to ever see our country shut down like this, and to see sport. I mean, this is something that none of us have ever even approached. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. It really is. I mean, Wimbledon canceled today as an example, and I mean, just amazing. I mean, we're living in very, very strange times. We're talking with Bobby Valentine. Baseball will come back, folks, and it'll be important when it does, because it will. Baseball gives everybody a sense of normalcy. There's no question about it. Looking back, Bobby, over the, it's funny. now everybody's replaying all these games and going over all these classic times. They were playing, games from 2000 and different things. It's a funny thing. When I go back and look over my career, one of the things I've always said is the Subway Series did not have the grip that I thought it would on everybody. It really didn't. But it was an interesting series. It was an interesting dynamic, but I think people in this town, from a baseball standpoint, were almost nervous. It was weird. It was such an odd dynamic that I was always hoping we get another one, because that one was very strange. The Mets handled it in one way. The Yankees were very uptight, exceedingly uptight as a team. I never saw them so uptight, and it was.
How about when George changed the furniture?
Right. I mean, they were just so afraid the idea that they would lose to you guys, and your team, which was highly underrated, came within inches of having that be a very different series. I mean, from the O'Neill walk to Timo Perez, you guys actually played them really well, to the, Louis Soho 80-20, 80 bouncer, the Peyton homer off Mariano Rivera. You guys actually played them very, very well in that series. It was very misleading.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. It was an exciting time for fans. I think in our area, I don't think it captivated the nation.
It didn't. No.
I don't think it did.
Yeah.
But the bus drivers and truck drivers, the cab drivers, and the school teachers in the metropolitan community were they were fixed to their TVs, and it was a great week. It ended too quickly.
You got a lot out of that team that year, Bobby. When you go back and look at that team, and look now, you go out and look at the outfield as an example. You got a lot out of that team that year.
Well, yeah, it was a good group of guys. Once again, I think we built trust, and then we had teamwork. And when you have those things, you have a chance of doing wonderful things. And we had the National League championship and couldn't close the deal.
Listen, it was a great year. It was a lot of fun. It really was.
Thanks.
I mean, it was a very different time. When you go back and think of this, now I remember 9/11, which was very different than this, because it was that sudden shock, and then we all had something to do. I remember you, especially you guys, and you out there every day loading up all those trucks outside Shea Stadium, which was like a place where everything got loaded and everything got moved from. It was almost like a supply area, where there were trucks coming and going and everything. And you were very busy during that time. You guys as a team, and you especially, were very busy during that time. I'm sure that these couple of weeks made you think about that, even though I'm sure it feels very different. It probably did harken back to those days, huh?
Oh, yeah. I thought that the uncertainty of the moment was similar, and I thought that the trust was also similar, and the difference was it was kind of a call to action.
Yes.
Where this is a call to inaction.
Exactly. And there's no certainty here. There's no plan here. That's the bottom line. And I think that's where, not to pick on anybody, but that's where we need a plan. We need to know what we're doing, but I just don't think they have any plan yet, because I don't think they know how to get their arms wrapped around the virus. I just don't think they know how to attack it yet. I think they're still trying to figure that out, is what I think was going on. And
we're on Mars, and we don't know how to breathe. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, especially in our area. Look at the numbers in the metropolitan area. They're unbelievable.
Yep. We've had our cases out here in Connecticut,
I mean,
Westchester County, and
Queens.
It's going to spread across the country. We know that.
Absolutely. What's the hard? I mean, of all, which is the hardest part for you? Is it you got a lot of hats. You got the college. You got all the different things you do. Is the restaurant the hardest part to deal with?
No, the restaurant is. I'm in with Sport Tech, which it's an international company,
right.
And they have their act together.
Gotcha.
My academy is a hands-on situation, but the director of athletics at a mid-major university where we're talking about 90 coaches and 800 student athletes, every day the phone's ringing or the emails are consistently coming in, and I'm trying to be a little beacon of hope, even though I don't have the answers. And the university is doing a great job of keeping everyone paid and keeping up the spirit.
Very
My
good.
staff has been spectacular. I have, I have Megan Miller, who's my deputy, who communicates with the NC2A and the NEC and she makes sure that all the information is filtered through the
What are you hearing from your
organization
athletes
every day?
What are you hearing
every day, Mike?
What are you hearing
every day?
What are you hearing from your athletes?
Well, we're hearing concern. We're hearing about not only that they're not in season playing. Many of them are worried about the condition that they're going to be in, or the condition that they're going to lose. Our strength and conditioning program is the pillar of our success, and now we're doing it remotely, and the student athletes getting things on the internet, and it's just not the same as the hands-on approach that we've had them become accustomed to.
Interesting. And most of them are home with their families, right? All of them are,
yeah.
right? They're all home, right?
99% are home with their families and taking classes remotely. We got set up with that very quickly, and we're kind of the leader to pack there. And so they're getting their education. Just the athletic side is it takes some sweating, it takes some working, and it's hard to do that in your bedroom, in your living room.
Is the school being utilized in any way right now, or is it shut down?
No, we are shut down. There's only essential employees are there, and we're trying to turn off the lights and save a couple dollars, because this is a major hit. That $1,800,000,000 that usually comes from that basketball tournament isn't there this year,
yep.
And that hits everyone right in the purse strings. So we're trying to figure out how to keep it all together.
That is a very good point. People don't realize that tournament funds everything for college athletics. Everything.
Except for the big boys who have football. The big boys who have the football in their own conference, they get that money. But, everyone else around the country is reliant on the tournament.
No, absolutely. It's amazing. You don't realize when everything stops, how one area impacts the next and impacts the next, and how one event it can affect so many different things. To not have a tournament. And that's one event that there's just no way, there's nothing they could do. I mean, that one had to go. Wimbledon's already said they're not coming back this year, too. So just to show you that they said, no, we're not even considering it. They're not even considering, some of the other events are still thinking about going in the fall. Wimbledon said, we'll see you next year. I mean, they already said, we'll see you next year. We don't intend on playing another time. So, I mean, some of these events, like the NCAA tournament, there was just no way. I mean, once the dates are gone, it's over. And it's going to be interesting to see what the NBA does. I mean, the NBA is talking about maybe playing without fans and playing at two sites.
With something?
Yeah, with all the teams coming to two sites and basically building two television studios and playing the games.
Yeah, it's an amazing situation. I thought baseball was going to be able to start the season in Florida, and start playing some games down there without fans that counted in good weather. But now they're not going to have to worry about the weather. They're going to have to just worry about the season.
And what's realistic for someone who knows this as well as you do? What's realistic when the bell rings? How many weeks do the teams need to get themselves in enough shape where you're not worried about your pitches and you're not worried about your players? How many weeks will you need to get ready to start the season?
With an expanded roster, I think you need 2 weeks.
2 weeks, okay.
I think these world-class athletes, just need to see it, need to figure out their timing as hitters. They, have to make sure their legs are ready to go first to third and first to home. And then the pitchers just are going to need the extra time, and that's why I'm sure they're going to have more pitchers on the roster at the beginning than they normally do, just to get through those games.
Makes plenty of sense. Listen, thanks for a couple of minutes. Be well. We'll talk to you when things
well.
are. Thank you.
We're in that vulnerable stage.
Yes,
so
that's very
careful.
true. That's for you too,
Okay,
Bobby.
bro.
Thanks. Be safe. Thank you.
Okay, Michael.
All right, Bobby Valentine.